Good day. This is a lecture on global governance from our course, The Contemporary World. If you want to check other lessons, please check this channel for other videos. To start our lesson on global governance, let me share a trivia about BTS and the United Nations. Alam mo ba that the 7 members of the K-pop superstars BTS made a special appearance with South Korean President Moon Jae-in in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals moment in New York City in September of 2021? South Korea's government officially leaned into boy band diplomacy, tapping BTS as presidential envoys for international meetings like the UN General Assembly. The members of the BTS took the stage to deliver a speech promoting COVID 19 vaccines and spotlighting the future of global youth. The group also presented a pre recorded music video of their song Permission to Dance, which showed them singing through the halls of the United Nations headquarters and dancing in the garden by the East River. So, how is this related to global governance? Global superstars such as the BTS lend their voices to speak about issues that need the world's attention. They may be a small piece of the puzzle in the larger scale of global governance, but millions and millions of people around the world listen to them because of their international fame. Now, let's begin with our lesson.
Can you imagine if you are the global governor or the world's president? What are the 5 priority problems that you want to resolve in your first 12 months in office?
I want you to think about this question as we move forward and discuss the different topics in global governance.
Let's define global governance. Global governance refers to the collective efforts to identify, understand, and address worldwide problems that go beyond the problem solving capacities of states. Collective, meaning hindi iisa, may kasama ka, sama-sama, 'di ba? Parang collection, iba't iba. So from it's related to the word collection, collect, iba't ibang parts. So collective efforts to identify, understand, and address worldwide problems that go beyond the problem-solving capacities of states. 'Di ba, dinefine natin yung states last time. So, these are problems na beyond na sa isang bansa. And para ma-resolve mo ito, kailangan mo ng approach na kayo ay sama-sama because one country alone cannot do it because the problem itself is borderless. Trans transcends beyond borders. Tumatawid. Next, the role of nation state in globalization. Ah, bakit tayo bumalik sa role of nation state? Because nung una naman na mga panahon ay kanya-kanya. Ang mga bansa ay may sari-sariling teritoryo, ang mga nation state, ang mga estado, ang mga bansa ay may kanya-kanyang role sa pagde-decide. Balikan natin ang elements of state. May teritoryo, may tao, at may sovereign power. Just to remind as a recap, pag may sovereign power ka, the authority of the state to govern itself. Meron kang sariling authority, may kalayaan ka, may authority ka to implement laws and programs for your own territory. So, nation states' role in globalization is complex. Komplikado. Hindi siya simple. Since nation states are divided by physical and economic boundaries, reduced barriers in international commerce and communication are considered their potential threat. 'Di ba? Lagi nating pinag-uusapan yung globalization. So, um, nagiging potential threat yung reduced barriers. Kasi nga parang ano ba, because of reduced barriers at because of globalization, yung independence ba ng isang bansa in terms of policies ay hindi na magiging ganong ka um, independent ang kanilang foreign policy. Sovereignty of individual nations is not abolished by expanded trade among countries. Instead, globalization is a force that changed the way nation states deal with one another, particularly in the area of international commerce. Ito naman, in setting international commerce policies, isolated states are forced to engage to one another while nation states' domestic role is unchanged. Ibig sabihin, pag sinabi nating domestic role, yung ginagawa ng mga kanya-kanyang mga bansa domestically domestic sa lokal within their country ay hindi naman nagbabago. Um, Roles of some states were diminished while others have exalted roles to interactions of various economic balances. Yung ibig sabihin natin dito ng exalted, meaning yung posisyon ng ibang mga bansa ay mas naging mas mataas, mas naging mas makapangyarihan sila. While yung roles naman ng ibang mga bansa ay bumaba because of interactions na complex, because of economic imbalances. 'Di ba? May economic elite, may superpower, na-discuss natin yan previously. So because of that, nag-iiba-iba, iba-iba yung roles ng mga bansa on how they interact dito sa global governance. So, ano nga ba ulit ang impact ng globalization sa isang estado? Problems afflicting the world today, which are increasingly transnational, transboundary, in nature, those that cannot be solved at the national level or state-to-state negotiations. Ilan lamang ito sa mga problema na hindi talaga ito kaya na masolusyonan sa sarili mo lang na teritoryo. You have no choice but to interact with other nations just to ensure that these will be resolved. Poverty, environmental pollution, economic crisis, organized, organized crime and terrorism, pandemics, climate change. Hindi ba ang mga problemang ito can affect all nations and no nation states can resolve this thing alone. Decision-making processes in globalization is complex as it takes place in various levels such as subnational, national, and global, which lead to the growth of multi-layered system of governance. Ang sinasabi lang dito is that halimbawa sa Pilipinas, national 'yon. Ano yung subnational? Ito yung regional, ito yung cities ninyo, munisipyo ninyo. Ano pang subnational? Yung mga barangay natin, 'di ba? We all have the stake. Meron tayong ah, puwedeng masabi at maibahagi sa decision-making process. And ito yung multi-layer, iba't ibang layer, 'di ba? So ang global governance shifted from traditional territorial sovereign state or the nation state to a more loose structures warranting international cooperation, movement, and response. In response, several non-state bodies came about, including the United Nations, with the ultimate goal of international action. One important example of non-state actor playing a vital role in the world's affairs is the United Nations. Nag-introduction na tayo ng UN last time, remember? But this is about the governance, kaya mas naha-highlight yung United Nations. UN is designed to make enforcement of international law, security, human rights, economic development, and social progress easier for countries around the world. So, ano ba yung roles and functions of the United Nations? As an intergovernmental organization, the United Nations is tasked to promote international cooperation and to create and maintain international order. It is the largest, most familiar, most internationally represented, and most powerful intergovernmental organization in the world. Intergovernment, 'di ba? Ito na naman yung inter na salita. Inter between and among governments because the membership of the UN is basically different countries also. The power of the UN nung binuo ito ay talagang to promote international cooperation. Shine-shape nito ang global governance kasi nga in the absence of a world government, wala tayong gobyerno ng mundo, wala namang president of the world na kanina ko pang sinasabi. So there are four main purpose of the UN Charter. First is maintaining worldwide peace and security. Number two is developing relations among nations. Number three is fostering cooperation between nations in order to solve economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian international problems. And four, providing a forum for bringing countries together to meet the UN's purposes and goals. Aims to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, to establish conditions under which justice and respect for obligations arising from treaties and other sources of international law can be maintained, and to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom.